Hello and welcome to Crazy Canuck Trucking. I'm David, the Crazy Canuck, and
I'm Bridget, the Size Matters Dakotan. Together, we're going to spin some yarns about trucking. These will be real stories, some true, some may be larger than life, and all will be entertaining.
we'll also try to bust some myths or answer any questions you may have about rolling across the asphalt ribbon in North America.
So please turn up the volume, tighten your seatbelts, ignore those around you, and if you're driving, please don't become one of our stories. We are 10-8.
Welcome, folks, to episode 9 of the Crazy Canuck Trucking podcast. Myself, Bridget, the Size Matters Dakotan, and my official host, who I just follow along to help out, David Henry. We're here. We wanted to talk to you a little bit today with a special guest. But before we get to our guest, just wanted to reiterate that exciting news, episode 10 is coming. And that's a big step because we want to have a bit of a discussion on a topic that we've touched on from time to time, and that would be talking about mental health, and especially in the arena with the trucking industry. David and I were really lucky that last week we had a chance to be interviewed ourselves, and we were interviewed by Safety Dog. And so that was tremendously fun. You can find that on several different areas of your podcast platforms. Also, there is visual on YouTube. And there were some sponsors there. David, who were the sponsors for Safety Dog's podcast?
The sponsors for the Safety Dog podcast was the National Recruiting and Retention Symposium. I have to say that slow because it's really a mouthful for a guy like me. But they are putting on a symposium, webinar in shortly here. By the time this comes out, it'll be even shorter shortly. So October 22nd, there is a webinar going up, and I will be speaking at that webinar. And so I hope as many people as possible sign up if you want to learn something about keeping your drivers or keeping your employees. It won't matter whether it's just drivers or employees or office staff or whatever. I'll be speaking for a little bit about the truck driver side of things and what to look out for and how to navigate these days. And there will be other speakers on there as well. It'll be a 2-hour session altogether. And I really look forward to doing it for Transrep. So if you go to Transrep, go to their website. We'll put information in the show notes and check out the National Recruiting and Retention Symposium featuring yours truly. And Dog On It podcast was sponsored by them when we were on there. And it was really cool to be on with the dog.
You mean Safety Dog.
Safety Dog, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's pretty cool to talk to him. So what do we have for a 10 code today, Bridget?
Well, first things first, guys, I want to give a reminder that here on episode number 9, we want to reiterate the fact that, David mentioned we have some information in our show notes. And one of those things is use the link in the show notes, use our Crazy Canuck Truckin' at Gmail, and send us stories, comments, your emails. Give us a rating if you're using Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and make sure to subscribe so you can follow along and not miss a beat of what we do on this show. So to get into our 10 code today, David, I'm choosing 1038 for ambulance needed. Now, I don't think either one of us is injured, but I think our guest in the past may have been. So we should be careful and just standing by. I mean, at the least, I could go get my first aid kit out of my pickup. But
there you go.
We're 1038. And David, who do we have today?
We have one of the best guys I know. I've known him for longer than we care to remember, but it's been a couple decades minimum.
Maybe he cares to remember. Let's be good here.
Okay, yeah. Well, because he's still around, But it's my pleasure to invite a good friend of mine, former employee of mine, former co-worker, and current friend, Vincent Stepaniuk. Vince, welcome to the Crazy Canuck Truckin' Podcast.
Thanks. Hi, how's everybody doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. What's life like on the Buffalo Ranch today?
We're just trying to bale up some second cut hay, and that just trying to clean the last few fields up and get that done, and then start trying to do some fencing. And that one spot that was too wet in spring, so we got to do it in fall when it's dry.
So I have a question.
So
Where's the Buffalo Ranch and what are you doing for fencing? Because what little I know about Buffalo, this isn't just single strand barbed wire.
no, it's not. I live in a small town called Rosa, Manitoba, and as for fencing, we're just putting up 6 strands of old hydro wire. It's nothing fancy. And that,
Hydro wire.
Yeah. Yeah, old hydro wire. And
All right,
that, so
explain hydro wire, because I know it's a lot more durable than what you'd normally be doing if you were fencing in beef cattle, but I bet there's a lot of people listening who have no idea what you're talking about.
as for the hydro wire, just walk outside and look at the lines running up and down the roads. That's all it is. And that it's stuff Manitoba Hydro is taken down. They can't use it, but we were able to find a use for it. So it's not bad. It's a lot cheaper than buying barbed wire or anything else, any other kind of wire. So the fence was originally built about 20 years ago, and we're just upgrading it. Like the fence posts were rotting off and that, so, and the bush was growing in, so we're cleaning it up, making it look nice and neat again. So it's not too bad. Putting steel corners in so that it anchors good.
So I know David is going to ask questions about trucking with you. But before we get to that, I want to know how many head of buffalo and how long you've been raising them and where do you sell them?
Right now we've got about 150 head on the farm. And that my dad started back in 79 with them, and slowly grown since then. There's been ups and downs. And right now, the main market we have is in New Rockford, North Dakota.
I live in North Dakota, so I was pretty sure you were going to say New Rockford. So if only I had a bell or something to ring to say yes.
We'll have to get Timmy on that. Get him to give us a bell. Bing.
Oh, tell him to blow the truck horn. I want the truck horn
Yeah.
to blow.
There we go.
Okay.
So what's your role on the ranch, Vince?
Right now, basically anything and everything, whatever we're working on and that. So right now I just work on the farm and that. So whatever we do from morning into night, like right now it's winding down with harvest and field work and stuff. So start getting the winter wood supply in another week or two, but just slowly trying to wrap stuff up and that. So throughout the year and that, from working fields up in spring, seeding them, to cutting, baling hay. So pretty much a little bit of everything.
So I mentioned that we've known each other for quite a while. Maybe you want to fill our listeners in on where we first met.
Oh, I met Dave in 97, the year of the flood here in Manitoba. And that, I met him when I started working in Niverville at Terraflex. It was a fertilizer chemical company and that. So pretty interesting work, and that I really enjoyed it, and that really good bunch of people to work with. A couple crazy ones, but me and Dave got along real good. So
Yeah, I wasn't the only crazy one.
When you're working in ag and trucking, it's pretty easy to say you're not the only one.
I have a memory from that time, and because at that time, all of your family was working off farm and trying to build up the buffalo ranch while you guys all had outside income, right?
yeah,
And you had come to Terraflex from the sugar beet plant where you had been working, and that's where we first met. And I've never worked with anybody that's been stronger than you. And I don't know if you ever watched the Asterix and Obelix cartoons or read those books, but Obelix was a big guy, Asterix was a little guy, and that's what I always felt like. The first time I remember working with you was we were sent to pick up some railway ties, and I got sidelined by somebody else and was asked some questions about floating or whatever. I look around and there's Vince carrying a railway tie on his shoulder, and we were supposed to go pick him up together, and he's just like carrying this thing back. I mean, I've tried to move things that Vince could move, and I'd be like, and Vince is like, "Why are you making it look so hard? Just pick it up, Dave." You probably don't remember that specific incident, but because that was just a one-time thing.
yeah.
I was usually out in the field more and running around in a floater or crop sprayer. But I have another one. I kind of hinted at it before we started here today. So I'm going to tell the listeners what I know, and then I want to hear your side of the story. Because one day, Bridget, Vince comes into Terraflex, and I don't know how it started, but somebody said, "How you doing?" "Oh, my shoulder's a little bit sore, but oh, good," And he doesn't say anything more about it. And then I don't remember the time frame, whether it was a day or two or a week later. There was a truck driver came by, and he apparently was either with you loading buffalo or knew somebody that was loading buffalo with you. And he said that you guys were loading buffalo, loading up some bulls to go somewhere, and you were watching the gate, the last gate before they get onto the truck. And one of those bulls turned around and came back down, and the truck driver said, "I thought he was dead," because nobody can handle a buffalo running into a gate that they're trying to hold. And the guy said it knocked Vince back about a half a step, and the bull turned around and went back on the trailer. Like, Bridget, you know what buffalo look like.
Quite familiar, yes.
This Vince here is one guy that the buffalo are scared of, or will turn tail when they run into a gate that he's holding. Like, I don't know anybody else like that. So Vince, how wrong am I with this story? Is there any truth to this story?
Yeah, there is. And that it turned around and it hit the gate and that. So, but it's one thing we've always learned when we're growing up: when you're given a job to do, you do it. And that. So it's told to stay there, watch the gate, make sure nothing comes back or gets out. So it's one of those things. It was coming back, and I stopped it. There's not much more to say about it. Yeah, I did have a chain on the gate, but the gate still moved like 3 feet and that. And unfortunately, it's like most things, for me anyways, when it comes to pain, I don't think about it. You just keep going. So you do what you have to do, you get the job done.
See, Vince never told us
So
this story, Bridget. This all came from somebody else.
But I think that it's very indicative of Vince that he chose not to be a part of a cattle ranch, but instead buffalo, because they're tougher and stronger, just like him. So he's got to have a challenge. Why not take on buffalo?
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I'm wondering, through all of the years of, like you said, Terraflex, working with the sugar beet plant, trucking. So what are some of the other challenges you've had?
Some of the other stuff I've done and that, well, when I worked for Dave, we hauled chickens, we hauled pulpwood. I've worked a couple winters up in Fox Creek, Alberta, in the oil patch in the winter time and that. So it's always been interesting, always been a challenge. And that when you're out there at 3 o'clock in the morning and driving a water truck and it starts leaking, you figure out the problem and you keep going. And that it's just one of the things we've done, or one of the things I've always done. And that, so.
Would you say that up at Fox Creek was the most challenging trucking you did?
Yeah, it was.
Explain
and
to the
that, 'cause it
listeners
was
what
all
that's
in
like up
winter.
there.
Okay. Up there, the only roads to drive on are basically the roads that the oil companies own. They own basically all the back roads and that. So you're limited to the speed you can drive. And it's all, where I was, it's all hilly and that. So there's not a straight road out there. You're either going up or down or turning a corner and that. And in wintertime, it's all solid ice and that. So some of the roads, you'd be coming down a hill to a T intersection and you got to be able to turn. So there was a lot of driving around on the back roads with chains on the trucks and that. And the weather, there was one time in middle of February, it got to plus 20. So the roads went from solid ice to mud. So
It's like
crazy.
70 degrees Fahrenheit for the people that don't speak English.
Hey, look. Later, I will correct your grammar about semis and asphalt. Leave my math alone.
Vince, so you remember you and Phil pranking me one time? I didn't prep you about this.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So tell Bridget what happened.
Refresh my memory a little bit. Is that when you were down?
Yeah, I was down in Florida dealing with my insurance because of the crash I'd been in 2001, and so this is, I don't know, 2004 or 2005 or something. Would have been 2005 probably. I was dealing with that, and I was just about to go through security at the airport to fly home when I got a call from, is it you that called me or Phil? Probably you. You were up in
yeah, it was me.
Yeah, you were in the White Shell hauling chickens, and you knew I was away.
Yeah, we had hauled a load up there and we're filling a barn, and we just finished and we were just on our way home and that. And I know I had talked to you a little bit earlier and told you how it was all going, and that I'd let you know when we were finished and on our way home. So, well, I called him and I think I left you a message because where you were, you didn't want to answer your phone, but I told him, yeah, everybody's still alive, Dave. Don't worry about it. And now we got a crew coming to clean the chickens up, but truck's upside down in the bottom of the ditch. And I don't know. He didn't think that was funny for some reason.
I think it's funny now, but I was about to go through security and I checked my voicemail, and Alta, my wife, is like, "Calm down, Dave. Calm down. It's gonna be all right. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe everything's okay." And yeah, I'm surprised I made it through security. You had told me that one truck went in the ditch and then you flipped it when you're trying to pull it out with the other truck. Now I'm learning how to deal with mental health issues at that time. I didn't know what all I was dealing with, and I swore I'd get Vince and Phil back, and I don't remember what I did, but I waited a long time before I got back to you guys.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So Vince, I think there's been some other fairly memorable times while you were driving. Any others that come to mind that you want to share?
No, that's nothing else really that sticks out. And that. So, and that. It was always fun. You never knew who you were going to run into or where you were going to run into them. So,
It's always
but
exciting.
It was all good.
It was always exciting hunting or hauling pulpit out of the bush when it was bear season, and you're sitting on top of a log picker, loading trucks. Vince never liked that too much.
Yeah,
I'm going to guess not. No.
You're sitting on a little 2-foot square trying to load trucks as you're wobbling side to side. I never did like rides at the amusement park. That's why.
Yeah. You could hear gunshots going off as they're hunting bear. It's like, oh man. Sitting duck.
Or sitting bear.
Yeah.
Or sitting bear. Yeah. So I remember one night very vividly. It was not a fun time. It was the night I decided I would never have more than myself driving my own trucks. You know which night I'm talking about, eh, Vince? What do you remember of that night?
What I remember is coming to, and wasn't much left out of anything. So trying to figure out where we were, what had happened. So
Could I give a brief little recap of what I know?
Because when it all happened, I was sleeping in the sleeper of the truck.
Yeah,
So
I got a phone call at 2 or 3 in the morning. We were hauling, had a big contract to haul chickens way up north. It's a long haul. And it was a lot for a small company like mine. A lot for a small company like mine. And so I had Vince and another driver running team in the Western Star. And then I was running by myself in one of the Volvos. We had 3 trailers, but only 2 were big enough to do this contract. And so instead of having 3 trucks pulling, we could only have 2. And the other driver barrel rolled the truck going down a hill in northern Alberta. And Bridget, this crash was so bad that the tow truck driver, when he called me, he asked me what kind of a truck I had.
Because it was so hard to identify at that point what it looked like.
There was nothing left. When the insurance company wanted to pay out for the trailer, they wanted to just give me money for a flatbed because they had no idea that it was actually a livestock trailer. And the tow truck driver found a horn, one of the air horns, and it had the Western Star symbol on it. And so Vince was, the report I had was he had been gone through the roof of the sleeper, because he was obviously in the sleeper, like you said, sleeping. And then when he came to, he was walking around trying to shake it off. And somebody finally told him, just sit down. Multiple injuries, life-threatening injuries. And they couldn't get a helicopter out there. So they had to take him by ambulance 4 hours south to the city of Edmonton. And I was north of, where was I now? I was northeast of Saskatoon. What was the name there? Northeast of Saskatoon, about 6 or 7 hours away. And I was going to be loading the next day. And I just took off with my trailer, told the farmer, we're going to load another day. And I just hightailed it as fast as I could to Edmonton and got into I went to the farm where Vince was supposed to pick up the next day. Anyway, there's a lot to the story, but I ended up bailing out, and we got another trucking company to finish off the contract, and I stayed with Vince until his family came by. And it was hard for me. I know what it's like to be in crashes. I know what it's like to be badly injured and almost losing my life. But there is nothing like seeing a friend or family member that has been hurt. That's harder to deal with for me than it is to actually be the one that's hurt. I would rather be the one that's hurt than to see somebody else lying in ICU.
So, Vince, when did you realize how injured you were? I mean, someone had to tell you to sit down. I'm sure the adrenaline was pumping pretty hard. Was it when you got in the ambulance? What happened?
When I got up at the accident site, was walking around, I knew my elbow was broken. I didn't know how bad. The way I knew it was broken, I could feel the bones grinding together as my arm swung.
Mm-hmm.
And that, so sat down, and the thing was, I was sitting down on the front axle of the truck because it was torn right off. And then by the time the ambulance and everything got there, I was already laying down on the ground again. And then don't remember much after that. Next thing I remember is I was in Valley View in the hospital, and they were getting ready to ship me down to Edmonton. So, but I know by the time Dave got there, well, when I was in Edmonton, they're standing there discussing on what they're going to do and everything. And one doctor says, well, we can't do anything without a signature. It's like, what are you guys talking about? They wanted somebody to sign a paper so that they could do the surgeries that they figured were needed.
Mm-hmm.
I said, give me a paper, I'll sign it. And so I'd been through one operation, and by the time Dave got there, and just so Dave knew how I was, as he walked into the room, I don't know if he remembers or not, but I flipped him the bird. And
that's perfect. I cannot tell you what a sign of friendship that is right there. That's beautiful, Vince.
There's nothing that made my heart happier than to be flipped off that time.
Oh, I'll remember that.
Yeah. I hope I don't have to visit you that way, Bridget.
Oh, I'll just randomly do it just to make you feel better.
Vince was my buddy. Vince is my buddy, and that was, yeah. They wouldn't let family, like, you could only get in if you're family, but somehow I got in there.
So Vince, because of that, did that change your attitude and your desire to do long haul trucking?
Yes and no. And I would be the only one in the truck. I wouldn't let anybody ever drive again. So that's about the only difference. So, like, I've been working on the farm now for over 10 years straight, and but I still keep a valid license if I ever wanted to drive again. So.
And on the farm, you're still driving some bigger stuff, not the size that you were, but you're still working around with big machinery. And
Yeah.
You have do you have a straight truck? But I know you pull a buffalo trailer with your 1 ton.
Yeah. Like we have a couple of 3-ton grain trucks we run. So that, and with my 1 ton, I pull a stock trailer, pull flat deck. So always odd jobs to do around.
As a guy who's farming, who's got buffalo, and I know that being in Manitoba and your market's here in North Dakota, can you cross the border right now to bring livestock down as the producer, or do you have to have a commercial semi bring them across?
Right now, I can haul them down myself because I go through the commercial side.
Okay.
And so I got 2 loads left to haul this year down to the kill plant. So go down, come back, and when I come back, I just stick around home and don't go anywhere really. And even when I go down, I basically go down, drop the load, and come back. I don't do anything extra.
Right.
So it's good that your buffalo ranch has gotten to the point where you're basically a full-time employee there.
Yeah, you could say that. Might be called slave labor some places, but we don't mind here.
Yeah. People like, I'm sure your family likes to make sure you get all the easy jobs, right?
Yeah, sure, Dave. All the time.
Yeah. I was down and visited Vince the other day, and his little brother was razzing him because he hadn't gotten everything done. I'm like, hey, leave him alone. He was, I came down here and distracted him.
I understand entirely.
So Vince, what, how should I put this? Is there any one experience you can think of in trucking that was the most fun experience, or whether it was type of stuff you hauled or anything like that?
I'd have to say when I was working up in Alberta, and that it was just so interesting. You learned so much, and it was never always to the same place. It was, you had your basic routine, and then every so often somebody would call in, and well, you got to go do something different. So we're still driving, we're still hauling water or that, but it was fun because it basically gave you a map and said, go find a place, because it was all brand new. And pretty much everybody I worked with up there, and they were all good people, so
were you hauling drinking water, or what water were you hauling? Any sour water?
Yeah, most of the stuff I hauled potable water, drinking water, or just water to the rigs for mixing mud. And there was a few times I hauled sour water, and
Guys,
definitely interesting.
Can you define sour water for those who don't know what that is?
Sour water is water that has hydrogen sulfate in it, H2S. H2S, basically, 1% H2S will kill you. Technically, 1% is, I think it's 100,000 parts per million. And that you can only work in, if it's 10 parts per million, you can work in it for 8 hours. If it's 20 parts per million, you can only work in it for, I believe it's 20 minutes, and then you got to be out of it for 20 minutes. And that, so we all wore monitors whenever we were out there. And that.
Are you wearing a
So-
hazmat suit as well, or just the monitor and no other special safety equipment?
Just the monitor. The only other equipment, well, it wasn't equipment, it was just basic coveralls, but they were Nomax coveralls, fire resistant, and
Yep.
that. So, and the units we're using, they're all sealed units. So technically you don't even know what the person's hauling unless you were there to load and you got a whiff of it and that. And this stuff is really dangerous. I know I had one friend up there. He was hauling, and the unit he was using, they had just got back from Edmonton, and something wasn't right, and it was leaking. And he was hauling 38% sour water. So he ended up in the hospital for over a month, and that. So
Was it just from
it's
breathing?
not fun stuff to work with.
Was
Yeah.
he just breathing it in, or did he have contact on his skin?
No, it was just the gas itself, just breathing it in. That's all it was. And what it ended up is the vent system on the trailer, somebody had changed something on it and nobody remembered that it was changed. So from the time he loaded to where he got, he'd been venting sour gas the whole time.
Mm.
So it's very dangerous stuff, but something people work with on a daily basis. And the training you get teaches you how to work with it, and they make sure you're well trained.
Yeah.
Not unlike in my industry, in ag and farming, we work with anhydrous ammonia, and you need to know what you're doing with this stuff. I've gotten a snoot full of it before, and you would crawl over your own mother to get away from that if you could.
Yeah, I have a funny story about hauling anhydrous. So I was on my way home, and I was in my personal van, which was a 1-ton van. I had all my kids in the van, and they needed a tank taken out right beside my house. So I was like, oh, I'll take the tank with me. So I was licensed to do it and everything. And I didn't have the nice hitches that, our normal trucks had. I just had a hitch where the pin was really, really tight. And you had, those anhydrous tanks, you have to be like bang on to get that pin through because you can't move the tank very well. So I put the pin in the top, and I'm jumping up and down on this pin to try and get it in. And Vince walks over because he was managing the anhydrous side at the time. He's like, Dave, stop making it look so hard. And he says, get out of the way. And with all my kids watching, he walks over, picks up one leg, and drove that pin all the way down through without even
No flinching, I bet.
No, just, why do you make it look so hard? Vince, that was a common theme. Vince always told me I made things look too hard. I'm not really that small of a guy, but compared to Vince and what he could do, yeah, I'm pretty tiny.
Yeah, that was a funny day. So
Yeah.
no, we always had some fun out at the anhydrous site.
Remember
It was always
Hunter.
an interesting.
Hunter was doing anhydrous training and telling people what to look out for and stuff. And he was a bit of a goofball. And he got some anhydrous in his mask because he didn't seal up properly.
Oh, that's
Everybody
terrible.
thought he was. Everybody thought he was just fooling around, right? He didn't think it was funny.
No.
He was a character, man.
So Vince,
Oh
I
yeah,
have to
he
tell you,
was.
Vince, I have to say that this has been great fun to visit with you, to hear some of the things that are going on in your life now and that have in the past and your travels and time with Dave. And so just thank you very much for taking some time to visit today. This is sort of like just hanging around the truck stop, having a cup of coffee together.
Yeah, it is. It's been fun.
Good.
Yeah, thanks very much, Vince. I've appreciated our friendship over the years, and very thankful that you'd come on and spend some time with us here when you have little buffalo running around looking for your attention.
They're not that little.
Alrighty, take care.
All right, you too.
So, to everyone who tuned in today, or whichever day you were able to listen, thank you for making it this far with us. Please contact us for any stories you may want to share. You can be anonymous if needed. Please share, give us 5-star ratings, and stay tuned for more stories. Thank you to Jesse James Dupree and Dixie Incorporated for letting us use their song, It Didn't Fall from the Sky, which, if you haven't listened to it, it's great fun. I really kind of love it. And thank you for listening to us.
Thank you to Jesse James Dupree and Dixie Inc. for letting us use their song, It Didn't Fall from the Sky. I appreciate every one of you that is listening, rating us. Please send in a story or comments. And thank you very much to our fantastic editor, Big T. You all have a great day. Be safe. 10-7.